And we're recording. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 10 of the Winston Boys podcast, giving you philosophical debates to help you become more clever, knowledgeable, and wise. My name is Kush.
And I'm Alex. And today we're going to be talking about some really interesting topics that are a little bit current eventsy, which is something we don't normally do. So we're going to chat about should college be free, or how much should college's cost be reduced, right? I think everyone, or most people at least, can agree that right now college is really, really expensive for a lot of people, especially non-public colleges, and the cost can be crippling for some families. And we're going to want to talk about, what sort of duty does society have to, grant cheaper and more accessible public education. And then we've got another kind of continuing on the education vein. We've got should schools reopen right now, right? Which is, we've got COVID and everything, but, it's very dangerous. But at the same time, studies seem to show that kids don't really spread COVID as much. So we're going to kind of talk about, should we be letting kids go back to school? And if not, when? And then the last thing we're going to talk about today is actually suggested kind of inspired by some comments on one of our recent TikTok videos, which is, do we have a duty to further mankind as an individual on an individual level? In other words, should I be striving to dedicate my life to pushing the human race forward, one more inch in my own little way? So anyway, let's get started, Kush. So I've been hearing about this college thing. Apparently, Biden has some sort of plan to reduce student debt. I don't really know that much about it. And do you know anything about it? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so obviously I'm our news expert, right? Like I watch CNN like 3 times a week, so it makes me an expert on everything. By the way,
whoa, chill out, Mr. PhD.
Yeah. No, but like in all honesty, like I've been hearing about it. I'd say I'm like averagely informed on it, but I know you had some thoughts prepared on this, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've put a lot of thought kind of into this. I haven't really been watching the news much recently. I've been very busy, but I'm always thinking about things like this. And I was actually arguing about it a little bit with not arguing, but debating it a little bit with my girlfriend the other day. And I think that it's a really important issue. And so personally, right, I think that having access to college, regardless of socioeconomic status, is really, really important, right? Because here's the thing, right? In our society now, right? You've got vast inequality. Okay, you've got people who can afford Wake Forest, where I go to school. By the way, I'm not paying for it, so it's not me.
That's fine.
But there's people who can afford $70,000 a year, no problem, right? And then there are people who, really want to send their kid to ECU, which is a very inexpensive public school in North Carolina, right? But the room and board and tuition combined really would put a vast strain on their family. And, it's just money, but money is only just money to, and that's something people always say is it's just money, like it's worth the education. Well, money is only just money to people who can afford the rent and to eat. On top of that, just money. It's not like most people who have to choose between education and something else, they're not choosing between education and the newest iPhone, right? Like that's something I hear all the time. Like, well, why don't they just save up? Well, it's not like they're taking vacations, right? It's like, well, it's either we keep the lights on or we send you to college, right? Like it's not like these parents are being selfish or something. And of course, recently minimum wage really hasn't gone up much, and college tuitions have increased by I think 800% or something in the last few decades. I can't remember exactly, but it's a ridiculous amount. And so there's a huge disparity, right? I mean, my parents kind of worked their way through school and really didn't have any support from their parents, right? But that was okay because they could work 20 hours a week at a restaurant and afford to go to school, right? At a public school. And now, I mean, you try paying for, what is the tuition at Chapel Hill, Kushagra? I don't even know, but.
I have no clue. I should know. I don't know.
I think it's like $30,000 a year.
Yeah, I'll throw in a curveball just to make this more interesting. Okay, because I think I've now like over the last 10 episodes, I've like positioned myself as like obviously the superstar capitalist of the world. So
Yeah.
I gotta throw in like a capitalist little curveball here. So there is like the guy who wrote the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, like Robert Kiyosaki.
Mhm.
You know, like he talks about like what education means to him, and this is kind of similar to what it means to like a lot of these other very successful people, which is it's like building your foundation and building like the knowledge that you're going to build like the rest of your life or career or whatever on. And like he talks a lot about like with education, it's like, you know, he's like for example, like if you want to build like a little, you know, 2-story home in the suburbs, you only need to pour like a 6-inch foundation of like concrete or something like that, and then you can put up the house, you know.
Right.
So he's like, you know, if you only want to build like a tiny little empire, you only need so much education and some, you know, very basic education. You just put up your teeny little empire. But he's like, if you want to build the Empire State Building, you know, you've got to spend decades and like pouring a foundation, you know, or not decades, sorry, that was way too long, years pouring a foundation before you put up that big building. And
Sure.
I think with, you know, to bring this back to real life, I think with the Empire State Foundation, right, when you're pouring that to connect it back to real life, I think it's not just like going to college that's the foundation there. I think that a lot of what you learn that ends up being valuable, that ends up being a big part of that foundation, is stuff you just learn through working at different jobs. And so I don't even necessarily think that for every single profession out there, you know, college is like a need to get an education for it, if that makes sense. I think there's other ways.
I 100% agree with that. I think that, for instance, a plumber, which plumbing is not an easy profession. I mean, there's quite a bit of physics and technical stuff in there that I certainly don't understand. Or a car mechanic, right? I mean, being a car mechanic is a difficult and requires a lot of skill and an apprenticeship and stuff like that. And no, of course, I'm not advocating that everyone goes to college or that we extend, you know, public education through college, right? Where, you know, everyone has to go to K through 12 and then go to get their bachelor's degree. Okay. I'm not advocating for that at all. However, I think it's a lot of jobs out there do require it, you know, and of course now here, of course, you're coming at it from the capitalist perspective, which is fine. And I respect that. But you have to realize, right? Not everyone can be the head of an empire, right? Not everyone can start their own business, right? Because someone's got to work in the business, right? If you have a 20-person business, that means there's one founder and 19 people under you, right? If you have a 20,000 person business, there's still one founder and 19,999 people under you. And a lot of those people are going to have degrees, and they're going to have technical know-how that, believe it or not, right? You can be the greatest CEO out there. That doesn't mean you can fix a car or run a graphic design software or code. Okay. Like those are all different things, right? Elon Musk may be the CEO, but that doesn't mean he's the best engineer. Okay. He probably doesn't know very much about engineering at all. Right.
Actually, sorry, I have to object because I remember I saw a clip of him explaining how like there was like early in like the days of SpaceX, like they couldn't afford like a good like senior scientist or engineer or something.
Mhm.
So I know it's actually I'm just throwing this in as a fun fact. Like he has a clip out there like about how he stepped into that position where like he was leading that team of scientists like directly.
So here's the thing
But
that
but
I don't know anything about that specific thing, but let's put it this way, Kushagra. If you found Cush's Hospital and are the billionaire, found this great hospital, it's way cheaper than everyone else. You're saving millions of lives. Okay. You're opening up in all sorts of poor areas. It's awesome. Okay. That doesn't mean I want you doing my heart surgery.
yeah. Well, okay.
You know what I
Okay.
mean? I don't care how wealthy you are. You could be a brilliant guy. I still don't want you. I want the doctor doing my heart surgery.
Let me backtrack. Okay.
I want the guy who went to medical school.
Yeah. Two things. Okay. Let me backtrack way back. Okay. One, when I was giving that example, I made sure to say some jobs don't require college. Doctor requires. I'm not even gonna go. I'm not taking this there. Yeah, that if you want to, like, you know, that's something we can talk about. But when you talk about the mechanic or the engineer, okay, I don't just mean when I'm talking about empire. I don't just mean someone starting a business. I mean like if your dream is to be like an engineer who like designs cars or whatever, you know, like you can go and get some job in a garage and work your way up through that and get the skills that you need to go and get a job at some other company and work through that and work through their training programs and learn what you have to learn and keep going. That's my point.
Yeah. So the thing about engineering is it requires, for one, a lot of math that's not like trivial math, right? I mean, it's like you have to do linear algebra and differential equations, and then oftentimes you have to do partial differential equations, and you have to do a lot of basic. I mean, it's not like super complex physics. Let me put it this way: it's not super weird physics. It's like Newtonian physics, but it's super complex Newtonian physics, right? And there's crazy math involved and stuff I certainly don't understand. So it's not like cutting edge theoretical physics, but it's very complex math, and you have to know a lot. It's not like something you feel your way around. Now a contractor or something feels their way around a little bit, right? You don't have to do all that. But yeah, so I think what we're kind of saying, I think what my point is that sure, not every job needs a college degree, but I think that it's good for people to be able to go to college and afford it if they want to, right? Or if their dream is to become a doctor, or I mean, all those things. Look, think about this: capitalism, right? All those things bring great value to the economy, right? You don't want a bunch of people who know how to swing a hammer, right? You want a bunch of people who have a degree in whatever, who are highly specialized, right? So they can do whatever you want them to do as the capitalist more effectively. As a capitalist, you want a skilled workforce, right?
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, right? But
yeah. And so I totally agree with what you're saying. And I guess I'll throw in my closing comments on this too, just to have one last. So I 100% agree with what you're saying. We don't want a society of people who go into mines with canaries and just mine coal all day. Like, we don't want that, right? But I know, like for example, Elon Musk is just a popular figure on TikTok, and so there's a bunch of clips of him there, and he talks about how at Tesla, like, he's made very certain that, like, there's never like a point where it's like a degree just like won't be like a hard requirement. Like, he talks about at Tesla, like, their requirement is you have to have demonstrated like extraordinary like achievement in a certain area. And so, like, you're talking about like linear algebra and all these things, and it's kind of making it seem like the only place you can learn those is in school, whereas all those textbooks that your professors are using to teach you and all those kinds of things, like, it's like they exist in other places too. Like, you can just go buy the textbooks. There's companies with training programs that'll teach you the same things as certain courses. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, though, as someone who is, I mean, I'm not an engineer, but I do have quite a bit of experience in the physics world, which really is, like I said, engineering and physics are very, very closely related, right? I mean, engineering is really just applied physics. I think any engineer would kind of agree. And, and it's very technical applied physics. I'm not, throwing shade or anything. It's a very difficult field. And of course, very high stakes as well, because, if a physicist makes a mistake, he goes, oh, well, I'll write it in the comments on my paper. And if the engineer makes a mistake, the building falls down and 1,000 people die. But, it's something that the things like this are very hard to learn, right? Just like I said, sure, you could learn how to do heart surgery by watching the surgeon, but like, I want the heart surgeon who went to medical school, right? Because they have things, they have processes, they have exams, someone's explaining the textbook for you. Because guess what? I mean, I'm pretty decent at math, okay? But that linear algebra textbook, I mean, I did this a while ago, but man, it's complicated. Like, I wouldn't have wanted to teach it to myself, okay? I wouldn't have done as well without someone who had also been taught by someone else, helping me through, right? You need the human interaction.
Yeah.
So there are alternate ways to do it, but I think, anyway.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
College can be very important for a lot of professions.
Yeah, and I totally get what you're saying, and I'm kind of at the point where I'm speculating, but we're at like 12 minutes with.
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah. Let's move on. Oh yeah, we kind of agree to disagree.
No, I agree with what you're saying. I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something maybe a little bit more approachable. Given that we both have kind of experience with this. So right now there's a lot of debate over when should schools reopen in spite of COVID, right? I mean, a lot of people are worried, justifiably, right, about sending their kids to school. What if the kids get COVID? What if the kid brings COVID home, right? The kids probably aren't going to be wearing masks the whole time, right? Kids are going to be like flicking boogers at each other and yelling COVID or something, okay? Like,
oh man,
right? Like, spitting at each other. I don't know what kids do. Okay,
that does not sound like my childhood, but I don't know. I don't know about yours.
I don't know. Like, look, I remember in third grade there was that kid in our class. Were you in my class? No, you weren't.
No, we had a different.
Yeah. There was a kid in my class I'm not going to mention any names, but he was in my friend group, and he would gnaw on his pencil sharpener all through class. I mean, I'm not joking. Like, he'd put the whole thing in his mouth and just really gross.
Mm.
Anyway, so like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, kids are like necessarily just a little bit insanitary. Okay, like I was insanitary as a kid. I was, all kids pick their noses and do all that kind of stuff, right? And they're not paying that much attention, to it. It's hard to get a 9-year-old to understand the stakes of COVID. Okay, and I'm not blaming the 9-year-old. I'm just saying that's the reality of it. And so people are understandably concerned, right? Now, at the same time, right on the other hand, you've got kids are really, really good at fighting COVID. They have a really great inherent immune response, and they're less likely to pass it on to other people, and they're less likely to suffer symptoms, and they almost never get seriously ill from it. In fact, they usually, again, don't develop symptoms. They're pretty much immune to it. So really, it's kind of like the younger generation isn't at risk from going to school. It's the older generation that's at risk from the younger generation going to school, right?
Yeah.
So Shagar, I don't know. I'm going to kind of let you butt in. What do you?
Well, I really appreciate that like breakdown, because that created a lot of clarity for me too, the way that you explained that. So I'm sure that was valuable for other people too. And I didn't know that. So I didn't know that the like kids like it, that now it was like confirmed though that kids like aren't they aren't transmitting it at like the same
I'm
levels and
sorry.
stuff.
So they do transmit it. They don't transmit
Mhm.
it as much as my understanding. Now, I want to say
Okay.
disclaimer. I'm not a COVID expert.
I,
I
neither
have
am
a
I.
background in bio, and I work in a medical-ish lab. But I'm not an epidemiologist or anything. I just know some stuff, and I read the news a lot. But the general understanding seems to be that, yeah, kids don't seem to spread it as rapidly. Transmission is way lower than it should be in schools, right? If it were a bunch of adults, let's put it that way. If there were a bunch of adults in schools acting like that, like COVID would be everywhere. But
Yeah.
these kids seem to be, and also, yeah, again, kids like their immune systems are like pretty bad compared to adults, which means they compensate by being kind of like hypersensitive. Like they're kind of
Hmm.
like hysterical immune systems. Like they see something like, we'll kill it and ask questions later. You know what I mean? Where the adult immune system's like, whatever, we're pretty good. And then like, with COVID, like the adult immune system's like, whatever, okay, we're not going to worry about it. And then kids have already killed it. And then adults are like, we probably should have handled that. And now we have a problem, right?
Yeah.
So we're kind of lax because from experience, we're overconfident. But yeah, so anyway, I know you have a little brother and stuff. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm learning so much during this like segment, 'cause I actually didn't know these things at all. So this is actually really interesting for me. Um, but yeah, I mean, like in terms of like kids going back to school and stuff, I think in Winston-Salem, they reopened the schools this semester, so it's optional if people wanted to go back or not. I know like personally, like I know my little brother isn't going back. And it wasn't like an objective like, oh, like you're not going back, or like there wasn't like like any sort of like anything like that. I remember like it was like kind of what you're seeing on the news and everywhere else. It was like an open discussion, like, hey, like just what makes sense right now, like no one was passionately arguing any side. It was just like, I don't know, like what's going on, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So it's like, but I mean, there's other people that are going back. Like, I mean, based on what you're saying, right? It seems like it's pretty safe for the kids. It seems like it's
Very
not very
safe for the
likely.
kids. It may not be safe for the people at home.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
yeah. So, I memean, I guess one question I'd have: do you know like where, like when kids are getting vaccinated in the order?
Like like it's not even approved for kids yet. Like kids can't get
Mm,
vaccinated with any of the vaccines that I'm aware of. I'm pretty sure like some of the vaccines are approved for 16 and up, but most of them are 18 and up. So if you're in, but I mean, kids 18 and under really don't get COVID. So it's almost pointless to
yeah.
vaccinate them. And again, they don't transmit it. They don't seem to transmit it as much. I don't know.
So,
Like
so
I don't know the figures on that or anything, but that's what I've heard is that, that seems to be the scientific consensus.
So then is the worry that in the in the few who do transmit it, like they are gonna take it home?
Oh, I mean, I don't know what exactly the figure is. They transmit it less. That doesn't mean it's not like a risk. Like,
Mm,
if they all went to school and didn't wear masks, I'm sure some of them would get sick and a bunch of the families would get sick, right? Probably almost everyone's families would get sick because yeah, they will transmit it. It's just less. Does it like, I think it's less infectious or something. I don't know, But my understanding is that the risk is lessened, but it's still there, right? I mean, it's still transmissible. It's still reproducing. People are still getting it. It's just not as bad as it would be in adults, right? So I think maybe, take the risk of adults and shrink it by some percent, okay? Where some percent is whatever. I don't know what it is. I don't know that science knows what it is at this point. I think we have a general sense of, oh, this isn't as bad as it should be, but I don't know anything beyond that, and I'm not sure that science does
it. I don't know if you feel this way too, but this is just such a scary topic to make a comment on, because like earlier in COVID, it's like you knew like where, like you knew if your comment was stepping into a territory where it was going to get attacked by Democrats or Republicans. And now with opening schools, it's like you have no idea who is on what side of what, because you have like now Democrats are saying schools should open and it's safe, and like you have Republicans on the other side of it talking about the restrictions. It's like, wait, weren't you guys just on the opposite sides of this
So
thing?
let me give my opinion has been the same the whole time, and I thought it was inexcusably poor that schools closed altogether. I don't think that should have happened under any circumstances, unless like the virus was significantly more dangerous than it is and was significantly more deadly to children. Now, of course, I'm not criticizing your family, other families for making the decisions best for them. I think that you should have the right as a family, right, to say, look, I'm not going to say your brother's name on the video, but let's keep you home this semester because I don't think that there's no reason for you to go, right? Like we're going to be a supportive environment at home, mom and dad can help you with the homework,
I mean, it wasn't like I know, I'm not sure if that's the situation in other people's houses, but at least for us, and like from what I've heard from like my brother and his friends, like it wasn't even that big of a deal. It was just like, do you want to go back? Like, I guess.
Right. Maybe, right. But that makes sense for him, right? That makes sense for him and for your family, right? But if you close the schools, right? Let's say that, you're not the Chopras who are nice and, support their kids and have the ability to support their kids academically and, have the ability to, they're not, your parents don't work 24/7, right? Both of them, right? It's not like your parents are both working 3 jobs to make ends meet. Okay. It's not like, your parents are alcoholics or something and, they come back and, depending on how drunk dad is, he might beat you, but that's the reality a lot of kids are living in, right? Especially during the pandemic, right? Where uncertainty, I mean, if an adult has a problem, and parents are adults, okay, like parents aren't like gods or anything, right? Like they all have problems too. Like any adult, they can, a lot of kids are living in a reality where their parent, who maybe already had a problem and maybe developed an issue, right, because of the pandemic, became very, it developed into it, or already was and just got worse probably. I mean, I don't think anyone's mental health got better over this period. There are very few people I've talked to who are like, yeah, I feel way, way happier now than I did a year ago.
Really?
I don't know if
I don't know. I promise I'm not just saying this to play devil's advocate. I know this is unrelated to what we're talking about, but I would be in that boat where like I feel like I definitely have like
that is awesome
on a positive trend.
I think
I mean, do you feel like you haven't?
I would say that during the pandemic was probably one of the low point, like the height of the pandemic was probably one of the low points of my life. And I think I share that with a lot of people because all my plans fell through. Like I had a really cool research project I was working on, gone. I was supposed to get paid for it too, gone. Whole internship blown. And then I was at school. I kind of had like a routine, doing really great with all that, gone. Like, and then you're like stuck at home. You can't leave. You know what I mean? Like, no one's getting along because pandemic's happening, and everyone's upset and stressed. And so, like there's a lot of factors that are not conducive to being super thrilled, right? And of course, if people are already, again, right? I mean, if you're a parent who's already maybe a single parent or something, right? And, kind of get back on topic, right? This is a really hard, difficult thing to deal with, is like a single parent who has to work or whatever. And, so kids who are in these situations, right? It's not fair to them to close the schools because then they're stuck in a house they're not getting the support they need to succeed academically from anywhere, right? And I'm not blaming this on some parents, right? I'm sure some parents are to blame, but I'm saying this is one of those things where everyone needs to have the opportunity, if they need it, to send their kid to school. If they're working all day or they can't handle it, right? Their kid needs to have a safe space and a supportive space so they can learn. Because otherwise, right, what are we doing? We're putting adults are putting their well-being above that of children, right? That's not how it's supposed
Yeah.
to be, right? The adult's supposed to take the bullet for the kid, not the other way around. Okay. Like we're supposed to protect kids. We're supposed to like that's like our sacred duty as like adults. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. If there's a little kid, right, who like is in distress outside, like I'm gonna run over and see if I can help them. You know what I mean? If like there's not their dad around or whatever, right? Or their mom or dad around to help them, right? Like that's just what you should do, right? As a society, that's what we should do is we should take care of our young, right? I mean, even like gorillas do that, okay? And I would like to think we're a little bit better than gorillas. I don't know, like
Yeah.
and a lot of people don't, you don't have Wi-Fi at home, you don't have access to the internet, right? What do you do? Right? You're what do you do as a kid, a 12-year-old, right? Who isn't learning what they need to be learning, right? Nothing, right? You gotta be able to go to school. If you need to go to school, you gotta be able to go to school. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I agree with what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense. And honestly, I don't have anything like I don't have like a counterpoint to that. So, but I do know. I think we're also over on this one too.
We are.
About
We
20
always go
minutes.
over. I'm sorry. I
That's
was
fine.
put down off my soapbox. I know, of course,
No,
I
no, no. But it
understand.
was good. I actually learned a lot there, like that I didn't know before.
And I apologize because I think I probably got in a little bit of a rant, but it is something I felt. I mean,
Oh, no,
I
it was
I
obvious you
remember
cared
thinking at
about
the
it.
beginning of the pandemic, like, wow, I'm a college student. Like, I don't know, like I'm a responsible college student. Like, I'm not putting in the same effort I normally do in my classes right now. And I was like, wow, imagine if I was like in middle school and like didn't have like a family who could support me in this endeavor, right? Like that would be like
Yeah.
rough. I don't know. Like I don't know how a kid's supposed to handle that. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, okay. So let's see. Oh yeah. So oh my gosh, we have a whole nother topic. I
Yeah.
thought we were
Yeah.
done. Whoops. Okay.
No. No.
Yeah. So anyway, one of the important things about education, of course, and one of the reasons I think it was so important to keep schools open for kids who needed it, was that education gives us the ability to further mankind, right? I mean, look, if I don't know anything, I'm not going to be worth much to society, right? I'm not going to be able to be a functional part of democracy. I'm not going to be able to advance our collective knowledge or our collective well-being, right, as a species. So let's kind of talk about Kushraka. What does it mean should we be trying to kind of further? Do you think you, Kush, have like a duty towards mankind, or like?
Yeah, this is interesting. So this is inspired by a conversation that was happening in our TikTok that was misunderstood by tens of thousands of people to be a how-to video on how to take advantage of welfare or
Yeah,
some.
people
I
thought
don't
I got
even
hit by
know.
a truck and was like
Yeah,
mooching off the government and smoking weed and playing video games all day,
yeah.
which I did say,
I
but it was
don't
like as
even.
part of an example. So,
Yeah,
um,
it was. Yeah, anyway, it got us. It got people to come check out the rest of our page. So I guess that was helpful. But yeah, I think it's an interesting debate, and like I certainly, I mean, I don't really like. I could see it going either way. I would say for me personally, like honestly, like morally, yeah. Like I would say like you do, but I don't think that like I think then when it comes to like implementing something legally, like I don't think that like that's something that should happen. Like I don't think there should be like a law about.
you go to jail. You haven't made a groundbreaking breaking discovery yet this year. Shame on you.
Yeah. I
Off
don't
to
know. I
the
mean, what do
gulag.
you think?
So I have a little. I'm no ethicist. I really don't know much about ethics at all, but I think about it a lot. I think it's really interesting. And I think that, in my opinion, right, there's a duty. I think a duty is a stronger thing than something I ought to do if I want to be a good person, right? So I think that as a person, right, I always go through my day. I'm like, okay, what would a good person do, right? If I were a good man, what would I do? And then I think, okay, well, a good man would do this. And sometimes I visualize, like, I think my grandfather's a really great that guy in certain situations. Of course, he has flaws too. We're all human. But where I think of, someone else I've looked up to, or just a generic good man. I don't know. You know how people like that, like, I don't know. It's kind of like a meme hashtag now. Like, what would Jesus do? You know what I mean? Maybe not what would Jesus, but like, insert your person who like you want to be like or something, right? Or
Yeah, or your list of people
yeah, or
too.
your list
Yeah.
of people, whatever. And so I think that, I think I ought to try to help out mankind, right? I think if I want to be a good person, right, and I want to be someone who's living the best life I can, right, I think part of that is, yeah, to help advance mankind in some way, to use, because I think that as a person, right, I've gotten a lot of things I don't deserve necessarily, right? I was born into a family that, valued education and had the means to, give me education, and had education themselves, right? And I was born into a country where I had electricity and running water and access to an education, right? And then I was born in a century that I had access to all those things, right? I mean, if I'd been born 100 years earlier, I might have died of polio or something, who knows, right? So I think there are a lot of things
Mm.
that, I mean, I didn't do anything to earn those things, right? It just happened. And so I think maybe if I want to be a good person, I should kind of try to pay that back. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, okay, well, I've gotten all these benefits. Maybe I can do something with them.
Yeah. I think too, one thing that, I mean, it's a little bit, it is unrelated to the point, but I thought I would throw it in there too. And again, I'm referencing Elon Musk again, but he has like a quote where it's like, don't get education confused with schooling. So like he talks a lot about like in terms of like getting an education, like it's not just about like how much school did you go to, and like did you go to Harvard or Stanford, and like what classes did you take. Like it's like education's like a much broader thing than that. And like there's even like examples too, like kind of going back to our first point of like, like for example, if you want to do like social media marketing, like it's like, do you think the person who goes to school for marketing for 4 years is going to, have a better foundation, or the person who spent those 4 years working, at some early stage marketing company and just learning through the training programs and through experience and stuff. So I was going to throw that out there. Like, I think in terms of like your duty to like further mankind, like, and just like I know we transitioned into it with this whole education thing. So I was going to
Right.
throw out there, like, that's kind of, that was another bit I had on that.
Thank you for, yeah, I agree with you. I think that there are many kinds of education. But let's kind of focus, I think, on the, I don't know, I think again, like, I think my point was kind of, the duty, like in my perspective, right? It's like a
Mm-hmm.
very strong word, right? I mean, I think I have a duty to, I was just talking about, you should help a child in distress, right? I think, if I see a kid drowning in a pool, I should jump in and save him, right? I mean, if I don't, right, not only am I like not a good person, but I mean, I'm a dick, right? Like I'm not a murderer, but I'm close to it. You know what I mean? Like people are like,
Yeah.
hey, like that kid was just drowning in the pool and you saw him. What's wrong with you? Like jump in and get him, you idiot. Okay. Like
Yeah.
people, you're doing something wrong, right? I don't think necessarily that you're doing something wrong by not contributing to mankind, right? Like if I decide to live up to my TikTok reputation and sit around and smoke weed and play video games, okay, maybe I'm not doing something wrong per se, right? If I spend my life doing that,
Yeah.
but
Society certainly did not appreciate the fact that you were
right, exactly,
doing that.
exactly. But and yeah, you're not going to be valued by society then. But like, I don't think it necessarily makes you a bad person. Maybe a little bit of a wasteful person who's taken what they had for granted, right? Maybe that's
Yeah.
bad. But I don't think it's like, I don't think it's like watching a kid drown in a pool and like laughing or something. Okay, like, like there's a duty, right? To like, I think duty is too strong of a word. If that makes sense. I think you should do it,
Yeah.
right? It's like same sort of thing. Like my perspective on like being polite, or wearing your mask, right? Stuff like that, where it's like, yeah, I think maybe wearing a mask now is really a duty. But maybe being polite, right? It's like being polite. It's like, yeah, if I'm gonna say something, I'm gonna say, hey Kush, hey Kush, how's it going? Would you please do this for me right now? Like, hey bitch, get over here, do this. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Well, yeah. So yeah, and this time I'll actually contribute to what you're saying, because like last time I was paying attention to what you're saying, but
you had it
I
on the
got
tip of your tongue. It
sidetracked.
had to come out. It had to come out. Yeah.
Yeah, which was anyway. I'll keep it on track this time. I agree with what you're saying, and I agree with a lot of the points you made too the first time that you were talking, especially when you're talking about like like waking up every day and thinking like, okay, what do I have to do to be a good person, and like you know I think this ties into exactly like what you were saying there. Like I think that's just like a restatement of duty to further mankind. But I know like too, like there was a place that those two people were going in that comment section where one guy was like, like if they wanted to shoot me into a black hole to like make some like breakthrough scientific discovery, he's like, I would do it because I would consider it my duty. And so I'm wondering like what you think about something like that.
Not a duty. Like I said, not a duty. If you think like it's something, I would say it's a good thing to do. If you really thought like if it was really going to make a difference, yeah, you should probably do it, but it's not a duty, right? Again, I like in my mind, a duty is something that like if you don't do it, you're a shitty person, right? And I don't think that if you were like, hey, or if I were like, hey, Kush, I have a great idea for you. You can go jump into a black hole and die. And you're like, I don't know, man. I kind of, I got some other things to do before I die. Let's come back in 10 years, okay? And I'm like, oh God, you piece of shit. You're a bad person. Let's throw you in jail. Like I'd be wrong, right? Like shame on me. You know what I mean? I don't think it's a duty, right? But I think that maybe you should do it, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe, but
Yeah.
like I said, I know it's not a duty. I think maybe you could argue that that you ought to do it if you want to be a good person, right?
Yeah. No, I agree with what you're saying. I think duty is a strong word. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if that comes in here, and it kind of goes back to like that conversation we had. I don't know if it was episode like 7 or 8 where we were talking about like duty to die, and we were kind of like, well, I don't know about duty. Like you will die, but
Maybe you get to a certain point where you ought to die, but I'm not gonna sign you up.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's like the trolley problem. It's like like I mean, if I pull the lever, I'm the one doing it. It's like
Exactly. Right. It is a little bit like that. And yeah, of course. I mean, anything like this, right? I mean, I think duty is almost like I would almost be justified in pushing you into the black hole myself, right?
yeah,
Whereas like, like that clearly that's not the case, right? It's
yeah,
kind of like, that's something I always like is comparing this to the organ harvesting problem where, right, inside of my body, let's say I have the organs to save 100 people, right? We've got great people with kidney failure and liver failure and need skin grafts and everything else, right? I could save 100 people by dying. Okay, let's just say that.
yeah,
Why don't I walk into the hospital, or why don't the police bust in here and grab me and haul me out to the hospital and harvest my organs? Why don't they just
yeah,
harvest one kidney? I don't need this kidney. It's just wasting space in here. Why? Because I have some sort of right? And even if it's gonna serve the greater good or whatever, right? Maybe I ought to give up a kidney. Okay, I'm not gonna make that argument here, but maybe I ought to give up my kidney. Okay, but it certainly isn't a duty, right? No one should be like, yeah, Alex, you're really a piece of shit for not giving up your kidney. Like, no, I don't. I think there
yeah,
are very few circumstances in which that's going to be true, right?
yeah.
Maybe if I were dying,
That,
right, and I dropped something. Maybe if I were dying, maybe I have a duty to donate my kidney, right? But I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense what you're saying. And yeah, I totally agree. I think duty is a strong word. Um, and I know this is always like a really like this is like probably the most annoying way to end these things, but I know that we're at 11 minutes and 18 seconds with this last one.
I'll quit.
So
I
yeah.
give up.
Oh, sorry.
I said I give up. I think that we've reached no conclusion, and that's usually where things end up because these are way too
Yeah.
complex of issues for us to solve in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's. I think we wanted to mention something. Do you want to do that, or do you want me to do it?
Sure. So I guess I can just take like 5 seconds to do this.
Go ahead.
So I think what Alex had planned, and what he really wanted to do, and I'm making sure I'm giving him the credit for this because this was all his idea, is we wanted to say welcome to the 4 of you who subscribed in the last week. We really, really are appreciative of you taking the time to watch our videos, and it's exciting to see that we have people engaging with them now who are just genuinely curious about us. So thank you so much for doing that.
Absolutely. And shout out to my girlfriend who was one of the 4 subscriptions.
Oh yeah.
So now we had like one of my girlfriend and like 3 random people. I mean, hey, that's 3 random people.
Not random people. They're
our fellowship.
Yeah.
Fellowship of Wisdom.
The Winston
The Winston Boys Fellowship of Wisdom.
Yeah.
That's our we should like if we ever do like Twitch stream that could be like our followers name or something.
Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows?
But yeah,
Anyway,
but I think that was all Alex's
yeah.
idea to make sure we thank you guys.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, guys, and thank you, of course, to all the people who are just started following us on TikTok and got engaged. And even if some of you guys were misunderstanding what I was saying and insulting me, I don't mind. I think sometimes a good insult's good for everyone. Um, so anyway, thanks for listening, and everyone. We really had a good time today talking about all these different kind of recent event things. Should college be free? I don't know. It's a complicated issue. We think maybe, it would be beneficial certainly to society, but I don't know. I think we came to much of a conclusion on that one.
Yeah.
Should schools reopen? I think we kind of both pretty much agreed that schools should be open to people who really need it. And it should be up to, maybe, parents pretty much, unless there's like extenuating circumstances, whether or not their kids goes to school, right? Because I think that people making their choices about what risks to take and what not to take is the only real way to do this. And the only acceptable way, at least. And then yeah, we also talked about if we have a duty towards mankind, right, to further mankind with our talents and abilities, right? For instance, by making a spectacular podcast.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
Oh,
we kind of decided, yeah, we probably should, but also we shouldn't throw you in the gulag if you don't.
yeah.
All right, I'm done.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I was also gonna throw in there like I think it was a very, very interesting episode. I certainly learned a lot just from, like hearing all of this. Um and I will also mention, as usual, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to grab your bag full of free college money, if that's the thing. I don't know if that made any sense, but grab that bag and smash the like button if you enjoyed this video. And make sure to hit the subscribe button, notification bell to stay up to date on all your favorite Winston Boys content. If you hit the subscribe button, notification bell, every time we post a video on Sunday morning at 9:30, you'll get a notification. And if you click on it, it'll take you straight to the video and you can just watch it or listen to it while you're driving, cooking, cleaning, whatever, just in the background, get more clever, knowledgeable, and wise. But anyways, that's all from us this week. We'll see you guys next week, Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.